and welcome to this special edition of a TEKsystems podcast as part of our Focus Forward campaign. I'm your host, Will Wagner. I've been a part of the TEKsystems family for 24 years, currently serving as a member of our professional development team. We've taken time this year to share insights with our customers and our consultants as we were all propelled into what's next, this new normal, what has been 2020. From organizational agility to empathetic leadership to career transformation, we've been sharing perspectives and practical advice to help us all rebuild, reinvent, reemerge stronger, and to shift our focus forward. Today, I have a special guest. I had the chance to meet Alex Draper in 2018 during one of his leadership simulation pilots with TEKsystems. You might know him as the Magnet Guy if you've ever had the pleasure of being part of one of his leadership programs. But he's more than a guy who teaches leadership lessons through toys, although I'm pretty sure he would be okay with that being his brand. But with that being said, we're fortunate to have Alex Draper, the founder and CEO of DX Learning, with us today. Welcome, Alex. How you doing?
I'm good, Will. Thanks for having me. And sorry to all of the past participants and all the magnetic nightmares that we've caused over the years.
You learn through the burn, right? So that's great. Well, I'm excited to talk about your digital transformation, the shifts you've made during COVID-19, and some of the lessons learned. But first, Alex, could you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, brief history. Blessed to have come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad started a business. My brother started a business. Both my sisters did. So knew that where I am today was it was going to happen. The journey to get here was interesting. I was going to be a school teacher initially, went into child education. I was told back in 2002 by my student teacher that I should not go into adult child education because the kids call me Mr. Funny Man and not Mr. Draper. So they wouldn't take me seriously. So went into adult education in 2002 and they didn't take me seriously either. So I don't know what I'm doing. But I was blessed to work for a company that had global reach and wanted to move to America, and they sent me to America back in, 2005. So came here in 2005 to set their business up, and knowing that I was going to start a business, started my own business in 2015 called DX Learning. I actually met Chris Harry, back in 2008 with my previous company. At a conference, and that's where our love affair with TEKsystems began. And it's been a wonderful partnership ever since. Got a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an amazing wife, and just happy to be alive right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that background, Mr. Funny Man. That's great. So this is exciting for me because you and I have gotten to know each other more over the past year. And I can say that every time I leave those interactions, I've grown. Your business has a unique model, Alex, both in content and delivery. And prior to COVID-19, you delivered a majority of that content in person, right? Instructor-led, groups of people working together in one location, correct?
You got it.
Okay. So all of your training was in person, flying from city to city, shaking hands and spending days together with leadership teams. I know that during COVID-19, we've all scrambled and adapted to adjust to that virtual world, but that's a big shift, right? And I recognize that some shifted faster and more efficiently than others. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you did?
You know, a little bit of vulnerability and honesty. We're only 5 years old, so when you get to a certain revenue, you start to celebrate. And this was the breakout year for us. I saw $3 million of business walk out of my door in a 2-week time frame, which will never leave me. But it's what we did to recover from that I'm immensely proud. So, as you rightly said, everything was in person pre-COVID. That was my belief, and we'll get into my belief in a second. But it's what we did to pivot, which I believe is nearly what every business did, was just face the facts. This is what's happening. This is not going to go away. And therefore, it led into rapid innovation to, well, what is possible? We can't develop our people face-to-face, and we can't foresee this coming back anytime soon. So how do we develop people in a virtual hybrid world? And we just took to the task immediately. And within a 3-week time frame, came up with a minimal viable product of a program that was the starting blocks of our new business. So essentially, we created a new business and have done for the last 6 months, which is a silver lining because now we can, like you are, we can touch the lives of more people without actually having to physically touch them. So we can still develop people without actually having to be there. And I believe that in its own right is a silver lining for all of us when it comes to either client interactions, leadership training in general, staying in contact with your family. We're all starting to stretch our own digital muscles, and that's not a bad thing.
Absolutely. So you mentioned something there that I wanted to kind of jump back to. You mentioned you had to face the facts and that you had a strong feeling about how training should be delivered. So what was your initial reaction when you realized there had to be some type of change?
I would say the initial reaction was, oh my gosh, I wish I had this epiphany 2 years ago. I had we'll go back to Carol Dweck's work on mindset. If you haven't read her book, Mindset, and you have kids, please read it. It will really open up your mind to a better way. So 2 types of mindset, right? There's the fixed mindset, which is the belief that basic qualities like IQ and talent are fixed traits. You're born with them, essentially, and we say it's a lock. There's a growth mindset, which is you can develop basic abilities through learning, resilience, determination, and perseverance. So I had a fixed mindset for how leadership training should be. I believed that it had to be in person. There was no challenging the status quo. There was no let's test out new ways to do it. It's no, we have to be in person. So my first initial reaction on March 23rd, when the work from home order came in, was, oh, okay, well that's just not going to work. So to move into a growth mindset was just okay, let's challenge the status quo. Let's not burn the bridges, but at least let's start to innovate. Let's learn. Let's test. Let's accept the fact that I failed. I apologize, team, that, my fixed mindset and my inability to see a better way or to at least adapt and test new things out has got us into this position, but let's dig ourselves out and let's move into the growth mindset. So I recognize my own failures, and I'm lucky to be surrounded by some amazing team members who showed me a better way. And again, there's your silver lining, leverage your people. I'm sure there's deep insight in there. Challenge your own fixed mindsets and lean into, hey, never get settled. Always be looking to challenge the status quo.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing, Alex. Thanks for being vulnerable too. It's obviously a great sign of a true leader to recognize that there needs to be a shift, own the responsibility to make that shift. How did your team take that?
How did my team take that? When you've worked hard to install sort of basic qualities in a team, and you hire a team based upon their ability to challenge, even though that I wasn't. They initially didn't take it very well, right? It's like, like me, $3 million of business out the window. Our futures, our jobs are in jeopardy. So I know initially pretty terribly. Almost my initial reaction, therefore, like the Stockdale paradox, which is, okay, let's just face the brutal truth. Let's be honest with what's going on around us. Let's not give hope where there is no hope. Let's just say this is what it is. So the first thing that came out of my mouth on the Monday afterwards was, this is the data. This is where we're at. We're not in a good position. But if we can club together, if we can come up with something that we haven't done before, growth mindset is we're not there yet. So we're not there yet, but I believe that if we put some grit and determination in, we'll get there. So that initial probably 2 or 3 days was probably for them horrific, right? Head down, oh no, this is terrible. But my job is to continue to inspire and to continue to allow them to make mini failures and to continue to allow them to test and to keep the honest truth, but also to give them hope. It's fascinating. We have an engagement survey, a daily one, and each team member is ranked from 5 being, this is a great day, loving my life, to 0, this is the worst day ever. Typically, every Monday it goes to 0 and 1s, because every Monday I'm like, this is the facts, this is where we are, there's hope. So Monday goes down, and then you see it start to gradually go up again. And over the course of the 6 months, the downs were lighter and the ups were quick. The recovery was quicker, but the initial probably first month, a lot more downs than there were ups. But that's our job as leaders. Tell people the truth. Don't hide the truth. Yet give them hope.
Love that. It's interesting to hear how that did go up through the course of the week. And they were, when I think about some of the things we've talked about before, they were empowered, right, to own that change, which I'm sure made an impact on how they felt about it. But when you talked about that honesty and hope, I think sometimes we get overcome by the feeling we have to be positive about everything, but we have to be real. Right. And when you throw the word yet on the end, it provides that positive twist that there is hope. We have a way forward, which is awesome to hear. So I want to jump back a second to the fixed mindset that you mentioned that you were in, right, when all of this happened. And it's interesting for me to hear that because over the time I've gotten to know you, I've looked at you as somebody who not only talks about growth mindset and teaches about it, but I've seen you live it, right? So it's interesting to hear you say that you were in a fixed mindset. Had you ever felt like that before, where you walked into a situation where you should be in a growth mindset, but you ended up in a fixed mindset?
You know, it's the fixed and growth mindset is very fluid. So yes, I believe I have a fixed mindset for cooking. I think my wife would also agree. I believe that I am born with this lack of ability. There's nothing that I can do to improve, and I'm okay about that. And Caroline, my wonderful wife, would say, yeah, you're a pretty terrible cook. I got that. So, but there are many other cases, and we can probably all relate to them. So let's think of something at home. Victoria. You know, I caught myself going into a fixed mindset when it came to potty training her. You know, she was 2 and the initial couple of weeks were terrible. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Again, she's not there versus she's not there yet. I was like, she's not there. She's not ready. And I gave up. So it's like the growth mindset's not just for me. You can also portray a growth mindset on your team. So I can't tell you how important, as any of you who are managers of people, you've got to have a growth mindset for yourself. I'm not there yet. And the same for your team. Please don't think that they're born with these abilities and born with these traits. You know, we are what we are, and the growth mindset is anything can be improved if we put some determination, grit, and learning into it. And I catch myself all the time, both at home and at work. You know, this year's revenue goal, another example. I caught myself a couple of times going, we're just not there. We can't do this. It's not going to happen. Versus, we're not there yet. There's a hope. There's something that we can do. What are we not doing? And you catch yourself. And I think that's the most important part is to catch yourself, because the fixed mindset is stimulated from the idea of learning. And the fix happens when it stops. When you stop learning, because learning is basically keep trying things until something works, and then if it works, keep trying to refine it. So when learning stops, that's when the fixed mindset creeps in. So just always be looking out for that. Now you just put it into simplistic terms. When you say we're not there, that's a fixed mindset, and then it's we're not there yet is the growth mindset.
Love that, because you're absolutely right. It is fluid, right? I feel like there are certain things you just feel more comfortable with it, and you're humming along, and you're in that growth mindset, and I'm willing to take on a new challenge. And there's other things, to your point, where it's easy to say we're not there, and we've just got to catch ourselves. That's an awareness piece to throw that yet in there. So it's a great way to look at it. Thanks for sharing that. So you made the pivot. I would love to hear a little bit about what that pivot looks like for you now. I know this phrase is getting overused, but I'll throw it out there anyways. The new normal for you and DX as far as your programs are concerned.
So the pivot for us at DX was actually relatively simple. So what hadn't changed is the outcome. I always say we as leaders what it's forced us to do in leadership positions is to move to outcomes-based leadership, right? It's no longer how work gets done. It's let's define what the work is, and it really doesn't matter how you do it, to be honest. That's the empowerment and trust piece. So the same rules apply for our pivot. What hadn't changed is we're still a leadership development firm. Our job is to rapidly change the behavior and move organizations to a more human workplace. So the pivot was, well, the outcome's the same, but how we get there is different. That goes back to my fixed mindset. My fixed mindset was it has to be done in a certain way to get to that outcome, and I was wrong. So the outcome is exactly the same. And what I've learned, sadly what I've learned, but it's great, is we can still get to that same outcome and we don't have to be in person. And I've got my team who are very creative and innovative and are more familiar with technology showed me and proved to me that we can still change behavior rapidly in a virtual world. So our pivot was still same outcome, developing leadership experiences, but now leveraging technology. And it's amazing to see that when you move to that outcome and you can achieve something as good as what you did before, it's wonderful creativity and just proof that that's the growth mindset in action.
That is awesome to hear. It's neat to hear you talk about the outcome-based leadership and that outcome, right? What are we trying to drive towards? I was listening to an interview earlier, this year when we first went into kind of this lockdown quarantine. They were talking about the school districts, and they were talking about how we can't continue to jam 1950s into 2020. In the way we teach, right? We have to think about what are the outcomes we're looking for our children. And it's exactly what you're mentioning there. It's a great way to look at it. Great insight, Alex. Thanks for sharing that. And so I think that, with that, the new normal conversation, I think there's a fatigue around COVID-19. There's no doubt about it in the situation that we're all in. So the good news is that we are quickly approaching the close of 2020. Right? We're right on the cusp of 2021. Here we are. So it means that it doesn't mean we're going to go back to pre-2020, right? We're not going to go back to 2019. And I think that, we can't. And I feel, my personal feeling is that we would fail if we go back to the way we were. We've got to look at what is in front of us and how we move forward from here. So when that ball drops on January 1st, I would love to know what your thoughts are about 2021 and what do you believe 2021 looks like?
Different to what 2020 looks like, but no. So let's just take it into some buckets. Let's pick the simple ones first. Travel. Travel is going to change. So, we're both in very sales orientated businesses, and the old way of doing it was to shake a hand and to eyeball someone. I mean, that's where you get to know people. What we've learned, though, is actually you can still proverbially or virtually shake hands. You can still virtually eyeball people. So we spent millions. I spent, one of the silver linings is I was going to probably travel 200,000 miles this year. I'll probably travel 20,000. So I get to see my family more often. That's a great thing. So travel will change. And I believe that business travel, that the need to jump on a plane to go see someone just to shake their hand will not come back to the way it was before. When we get on a plane, there'll be a specific business reason for doing it. And that means our businesses will save millions of dollars. Same with travel for leadership programs and for training programs. That won't be the same again. And we start to lean into this more of, we'll only get people together if there's a business reason for doing it versus it's just the way that we used to do things around here. So I believe we're going to challenge the way in which we spend money on travel, challenge the way in which we move people around, which goes back to office space. Another fixed mindset. I forced, is that the right word? Probably. I forced my team to come to work nearly every day.
Sure.
Whatever. I was, again, wrong.
They wanted to, Alex. They wanted to.
They leaned into it, bless them. But no, there you get it. So office space. I hasten to add, though, we found this out. There are some things that just don't translate well to a virtual world. We're a very creative company. Okay. Collaboration, innovation, creativity, those things, it's just faster, quicker to innovate when you lock yourself in a room with some flip charts and just get really people to to collaborate.
Sure.
So I think office spaces will now be collaboration experiences, right? If you want to come and collaborate, you want to design something, that's the place for the office. But we don't need to be in the offices to look over people and say, what are you doing today?
Right.
What's going on? We've got to trust. So we're just going to have to trust our people. So offices will change. Those big conferences, I believe that's a big change. Conferences will not die. We need to get people together to learn from best practice, but we have seen virtual conferences be very effective. So they'll be picking and choosing about what conferences we take virtual and what ones we take to be in person. I believe there will be small meetings versus huge conferences, but that's an opinion. We're still at the beck and call of our clients, and I believe clients are becoming more savvy. It's like, no, I don't want to see you. I don't need you to come shake my hand, and I prefer to do this on a Zoom call. So I believe our clients will also become savvy. They don't want us to come to their home or their office as much as they used to. So in a sales environment, we're going to have to just maybe ask more questions and don't assume that we need to jump on a plane, or get in a car and go see our clients. So I believe that will change. And of course, training itself, leadership qualities, we need to be teaching things like empathy, connectedness, growth mindset. We've got to start teaching the human stuff, right? So the notion of leadership versus management. We focus so heavily on management skills, right? Business acumen, financial acumen. I call them IQ. We've got to move towards EQ. Because we need to trust our people more and be more empathetic because of what's going on. We need those leadership qualities, and that's got to be a huge change. So there's some of the things that I see in 2021.
Wow. There's a lot going on. There's a couple of things, the themes that I pulled out of that, and thanks for sharing that. Intentionality was something that jumps out to me when you talked about our time, in an airplane, our time together at conferences, our time with our customers, right? Being super intentional about that, which I'm also hearing there. We need to bring value, right? There has to be that reason, right? There's got to be value, like you talked about the collaboration and the innovation when you're getting together. 100% behind you there. And then also, when you talk about the leadership and where we go from a leadership perspective, the empathy, the EQ, the fact that there is more trust because there is more, dispersed teams, working in a more autonomous workforce than we ever have had. That's a really great point there as well, Alex. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you giving us a glimpse into your crystal ball for 2021. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So appreciate the time today, Alex. Appreciate all the insight into growth mindset, the shifts that you made at DX. I'd love just to open it up and ask if there's anything else you'd like to share with our listeners out there.
Number one, Will, you have an amazing radio voice. So if for whatever reason that you don't make it, you should go into interviewing, into podcasts, because your voice is, I enjoy just listening to you over the phone.
Thank you for the compliment, Alex.
You're welcome. Here's my message for all of us. So let's differentiate between management and leadership. So management is the expectation to achieve predictable results. And when you become a manager, there is no choice. You have to get it. Leadership is the art of positively influencing another human being. So really that makes all of us a leader, whether you're male, you're female, whether you're introverted or extroverted. We can all have the ability, this goes back to the growth mindset, to wake up in the morning and to positively influence another human being in our service. I can't stress that enough, and it's a choice. There's no choice to manage. You've got to get the result. There is a choice to lead, and you all have that choice. And I tell the story of Victoria, my 2-year-old. She runs my house. She has the character of a million me's. But that doesn't make her a leader just because she's a bull in a china shop, because she has the biggest voice, because she has the most confidence. She has these characters, but she's not a leader. She doesn't have empathy. She can't connect to me. She doesn't give me feedback. She talks more than I do. She's not very vulnerable. She doesn't trust me. Well, I hope she trusts me. But these are all leadership traits that all of us can demonstrate. And if we can all lean into that, the world's going to be such a better place. So please, all of you, make the choice to lead. Don't assume that the leaders are the CEOs and the C-suites and the VPs. It's not true. You all have the ability to do it if you make the choice to wake up in the morning and go, yep, Today, I'm going to positively influence someone. So please choose yes.
Love that. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. We need to continue to adjust and adapt. We have always done that as humans, and it's obviously now is a time we need to do that more than ever. And we've all been tested a lot this year. Today I heard that a growth mindset is absolutely key to a successful adaptation, that it's easy for us to move in and out of that growth mindset to fixed mindset. It's a constant reevaluation that we have to do and be critical of ourselves. Are we closing that sentence out with a period, or are we closing that sentence out with a comma yet? And I also recognize from a leadership perspective, it can feel overwhelming right now. It can be a lot of gray and muddy days out there. But if we wake up every day and just think about how we can positively influence others, we're going to help our teams reach their goals. We're going to help our teams maximize who they are, and we can maximize who we become as leaders as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's not easy, but it's definitely necessary. So again, thank you, Alex, for your time and lessons. You're invited back to talk to us at any time. I appreciate you, and I want to thank all of you for joining us at TEKsystems as we all shift our focus forward.